Imagine you are applying for um, a highly sensitive, life-changing job. You walk into the room, sit down, and you slide your beautifully formatted resume right across the desk.
Right, the classic scenario.
Exactly. And a few years ago, the hiring manager might have scanned it, seen that you optimized for, all the right buzzwords, noted a few solid references that you provided yourself, and just given you the job.
Yeah, that used to be enough.
But today,
Mm-hmm.
the manager slides that resume right back. They tell you they don't actually care what you wrote about yourself.
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, instead, they're going to call your former bosses, your current coworkers, industry analysts, and even that random vendor you bought software from 3 years ago.
Wow.
Their decision is going to be based entirely on what the collective network says about you. And that shift from trusting the applicant's resume to trusting the broader network's consensus, that is the exact paradigm shift we are seeing right now with search engines.
It really is. It represents the defining digital architecture puzzle of our current era, frankly.
Yeah.
Because we are moving away from traditional SEO, where you could essentially muscle your way to the top with direct backlinks and optimized on-page text. Now, we're dealing with systems that process information by cross-referencing vast amounts of data simultaneously.
Right.
They're calculating the probability of truth.
Which brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. As AI increasingly takes over how you discover information, how does your brand actually become a trusted source? We are pulling from a fascinating 2026 blueprint published by Smart Target Digital.
Oh, this is a great one.
Yeah, it was written by Alexander Robinson III on April 22nd. It's titled, How Press Releases Build Authority for AI Answers. And it fundamentally flips everything you might know about press releases on its head.
Completely flips it.
So we are going to unpack the mechanics of how AI engines determine who to trust, debunk the persistent myths about PR wire services, and map out a highly practical roadmap for getting your brand recognized by these models.
The timing of this guide is just critical, because if you are still operating under the assumption that SEO is, just a mechanical process of linking page A to page B,
You're in trouble.
you're going to become completely invisible to AI. The engines we're dealing with today, they evaluate content through a fundamentally different lens.
Right.
They prioritize entity recognition and consistency. They are looking for mathematical consensus, not just digital maneuvering.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because that term entity recognition, it gets thrown around a lot in digital marketing circles right now. But I really want to break down the actual mechanism.
Sure.
If AI is out there doing this rigorous background check, how does a machine that just parses tokens actually establish trust?
Well, to understand the mechanism, we have to look at how AI constructs its worldview, right? It uses what we call a knowledge graph.
Okay.
And you have to think of the knowledge graph not as a list of websites, but as an interconnected web of concepts. When an AI processes your brand, it doesn't just see a URL. It attempts to create a distinct node in that graph, an entity.
So it's trying to figure out what you are.
Exactly. It recognizes your business as a noun, a real-world object. And once it establishes that your entity exists, its next immediate task is to figure out what other concepts, topics, and attributes should be permanently wired to your node.
Ah, so it's essentially building a digital dossier on you.
Yes, precisely.
It's trying to figure out if your entity, say, a digital marketing agency, should be wired to the concept of streaming ads, or maybe B2B lead generation.
Correct. And here is the foundational rule of that process, which Robinson highlights perfectly in the guide. He says, AI does not trust what you say about yourself. It trusts what the internet consistently says about you.
Wow. That feels like a brutal reality check for any brand that just spent, heavy capital redesigning their website to declare themselves the industry leader.
Oh, it invalidates that first-party claim entirely. From the AI's perspective, your own website is incredibly biased data.
Right.
If the AI simply pulled information from your single source, its answers to users would be nothing but aggregated marketing copy.
Just ads.
Basically, yeah. So to filter out the noise, the algorithm relies on multi-source validation. It wants to see your brand appearing across multiple independent publications with the exact same contextual information.
That makes sense.
When your messaging is repeated and reinforced across platforms that already have high domain authority, meaning platforms the AI already trusts historically, the engine calculates a higher probability of truth. It confirms the information and says, okay, this entity is factually associated with this expertise.
I want to visualize this because the mechanism is just so important. If traditional SEO was a popularity contest, who has the most links and keywords? This is more like the AI is a detective.
Yes.
We're talking about the classic detective string board here. Your brand is a push pin on the board,
I love that analogy.
right? And the AI is looking for red string connecting your push pin to other verified push pins like industry journals, news sites, or expert blogs.
That is a highly accurate mental model. The more independent red strings leading back to your pin, the more solidified your entity becomes in the knowledge graph.
Which naturally leads us to the press release. Because if the goal is to generate as much red string as possible, sending out a press release seems like the ultimate shortcut.
You'd think so.
Yeah, you draft one document, push through a wire service, and it immediately populates on hundreds of news affiliates.
Mm.
But the guide takes a very hard stance against treating this as a magic bullet.
It goes out of its way to clarify that misconception. What's fascinating here is the distinction the author makes between a primary action and a secondary reaction.
Okay.
Press releases, in and of themselves, do not directly drive AI rankings. Being published on a wire service does not instantly make your content authoritative, and it definitely does not guarantee AI inclusion.
Wait, let me push back on that for a second.
Go ahead.
If I wire a press release right now,
Yeah.
and it lands on 200 local news affiliate sites, the AI is going to crawl those sites, right?
Yes, it will.
It's going to see my entity mentioned 200 times?
Yeah.
Why doesn't the machine immediately ingest that as overwhelming multi-source validation?
Because the AI is sophisticated enough to recognize the nature of the distribution, it knows those 200 placements are just identical clones of a single self-funded broadcast.
I see.
It categorizes that as a first-party claim that has simply been syndicated, not independently verified. The guide defines press releases not as ranking drivers, but as signal amplifiers.
Okay, so the initial blast isn't the validation. The initial blast is just you shouting your claim into the ecosystem.
Exactly. The initial distribution creates alignment and helps the AI recognize the entity, but the real algorithmic value lies in what happens next. The true magic is in the secondary signals.
The secondary signals.
Yes. A well-crafted press release is designed to be intercepted by human journalists, industry bloggers, and thought leaders. When an editor reads your release, finds the underlying data compelling, and then decides to write their own original article about your findings, linking back to your site, that is the red string the AI is looking for.
Oh, because at that point, it's no longer a cloned broadcast.
Yeah.
It is a third party staking their own reputation on your information.
Precisely. The equation laid out in the text is really a chain reaction. The press release achieves initial distribution.
Right.
That catches the attention of creators who generate secondary mentions. Those mentions produce editorial backlinks.
Okay.
Those independent backlinks build true authority, and that authority results in AI inclusion.
If that chain reaction is the ultimate goal, it raises an obvious operational question. If one spark can start that fire, why wouldn't a brand just flood the zone?
Right.
Like, why not put out a press release for every single blog post, every minor software patch, every new hire?
Because treating a wire service like a daily social media feed triggers the algorithm's spam filters.
Makes sense.
AI models are fundamentally pattern recognition engines. If you are constantly blasting out low-value, trivial updates, the system detects semantic redundancy. The author explicitly warns that repetition without meaningful variation equals a low trust signal.
It dilutes the entity.
It actively harms your standing in the knowledge graph. Sophisticated models will begin to associate your entity with noise rather than signal. And furthermore, if you are flooding the zone with boring updates, no independent journalist is ever going to write that secondary article.
Right. They'll just ignore you.
Exactly. You completely fail to generate the editorial backlinks, which are the entire point of the exercise.
You essentially train the media and the machine to tune you out.
Yeah.
The Smart Target Digital Guide actually provides a framework for avoiding this trap, which they call the golden ratio.
It's a great concept.
They suggest a cadence where a brand might publish, say, 8 to 12 high-quality blog posts a month on their own site, but they only select the 2 to 4 absolute strongest, most impactful pieces to convert into press releases.
It is an exercise in restraint. You are reserving the amplifier only for the signals that have a high probability of generating secondary interest.
But that brings us to the hardest part of this entire strategy. What actually makes the cut? What makes a piece of content AI-worthy? Because a lot of mid-sized brands, they don't have massive PR teams.
No, they do.
They are writing opinion pieces or
Yeah.
like generic how-to articles.
And those generic how-to articles will not survive the transition to an AI-first search environment. Large language models are trained to hunt for novel tokens, new, unique strings of data that resolve gaps in their training.
Right.
If your press release is just a regurgitation of existing industry consensus, it offers zero delta to the machine. The guide breaks down 4 very specific pillars of content that trigger AI prioritization. First, data or unique insights.
Which means original studies or market analysis. But let me stop you there, because producing original data sounds really expensive.
Yeah.
If you are a mid-sized B2B company, how do you realistically execute that without hiring a huge research firm?
Well, you leverage the data you already own.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, most businesses are sitting on a goldmine of proprietary data in their CRMs or user platforms. Anonymize it, synthesize it, and look for trends.
Okay.
If a SaaS company analyzes 10,000 user interactions and publishes a report on shifting productivity hours, that is novel data. The AI craves that because it is a primary source of new facts.
That's a great workaround.
The second pillar involves original frameworks or strategies.
Meaning you aren't just reporting on the news, you are inventing the methodology.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are naming a new concept. If you develop a proprietary system for, let's say, resolving supply chain bottlenecks, and you give that framework a specific name, you are introducing a new entity into the knowledge graph.
Ah, I see.
When other professionals start citing your named framework, the AI traces all of that authority directly back to you as the creator.
That's powerful.
The third pillar is case studies or results.
Showing the math, providing measurable outcomes.
Because numbers are verifiable, saying
Right.
we implemented strategy X and saw a 40% reduction in cost over 6 months. That is factual data that an AI crawler can easily parse, categorize, and serve to a user who is asking about cost reduction strategies.
Got it.
And the final pillar is timely industry relevance.
Tying your expertise to breaking shifts in the market. So if a major platform updates its privacy policy, you aren't just summarizing the update, you are instantly releasing a deep dive on what it means for local advertisers.
You are injecting your entity into a conversation that the AI is actively trying to index in real time. The machine is looking for authoritative voices to explain the new phenomenon, and your timely release positions you as that voice.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you synthesize those 4 pillars, proprietary data, original frameworks, measurable case studies, and timely analysis, what the AI is actually demanding is genuine thought leadership.
Exactly.
It is systematically penalizing lazy marketing. It doesn't want a megaphone reciting a sales pitch. It requires you to meaningfully expand the collective knowledge of the internet.
It forces brands to act like primary researchers rather than just aggregators. You have to contribute raw material to the ecosystem.
But having that raw material is only half the battle, right? A brilliant data-rich press release just floating in a void accomplishes nothing.
Nothing at all.
It has to be integrated into a structure that the AI can easily navigate.
The source material refers to this as building a connected content ecosystem. You cannot drive AI visibility in a vacuum. A press release is a delivery mechanism, but it needs a destination.
Let's walk through how this ecosystem actually functions in practice. Because I like to think of this like a solar system.
Okay.
If we track a piece of original research, it doesn't start on the wire service, it starts at home base.
Yeah.
The primary blog post is the sun, and everything else orbits and reflects its light.
I like that. If we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a very deliberate journey that information must take. The journey begins with that primary source, the in-depth blog post or white paper on your own domain. This is the heavy, comprehensive repository of your findings. It establishes your site as the origin point of the data.
Then the information moves to the second phase, the press release. You extract the most compelling statistics from that massive blog post and package them into a concise, highly distributable format.
Exactly.
The press release acts as the amplifier, carrying the core insights out across the wire platforms.
Which leads to the third and most vital phase we discussed, backlinks and mentions. The amplifier reaches the secondary publishers. They read the summary on the wire, realize they need the full context, and they follow the link back to your original comprehensive blog post.
The sun in our solar system.
Yes, that inbound link is the multi-source validation being formalized.
But the journey doesn't stop once the crawler follows that link back to your site. This is where I think a lot of brands drop the ball. Once the AI arrives at your primary blog post, You have to guide it further using internal linking.
Internal linking is the architectural framework of your topical authority. When the AI crawler lands on your new research report, it shouldn't hit a dead end. That page needs to contain natural links pointing to other related pages, older case studies, or service pages on your domain.
Right. It proves to the AI that this single piece of research isn't an anomaly.
Exactly. It shows it is part of a deep, interconnected library of expertise. It maps out your entity's full scope of knowledge.
And wrapping around all of this is the technical layer. The guide places a heavy emphasis on schema markup.
Oh, this is crucial.
For anyone who isn't a developer, schema is often treated as just, SEO housekeeping. Does it actually make a tangible difference to an AI engine?
It is arguably more important now than ever. Schema markup is essentially a metadata dictionary. If your blog post is formatted for a human reader, the schema markup is a payload of code, usually JSON LD, that provides the AI with a pre-parsed version of those facts.
Okay.
It tells the crawler, here's the author, here's the publication date, here's the core data point, and here's the organization responsible.
Also, it just hands it right over.
Right. It removes the cognitive load from the machine. The AI doesn't have to guess what the page is about. The schema hands it the exact variables it needs to quickly update the knowledge graph.
So if we look at the entire journey, every piece relies on the others. If you publish the blog post but skip the press release, you have no distribution amplifier.
Right.
If you send the press release but don't link it back to a deep primary source, the AI has no origin point to attribute the authority to.
Exactly.
If you lack internal links, your authority is shallow. And if you skip the schema, you're forcing the AI to work harder to understand your data, which I'm guessing it generally won't bother doing.
It's a delicate network of signal. And to maintain the integrity of that network, the text outlines some non-negotiable best practices.
Let's hear them.
First, distribution must happen on reputable platforms. Using bargain basement wire services that push your release to known spam domains will actively corrupt your entity's standing.
Oof.
You inherit the reputation of the neighborhood you publish in.
You are the company you keep, even digitally.
Second, factual accuracy is paramount. Because AI cross-references data, publishing conflicting numbers or exaggerated claims creates friction in the knowledge graph.
It confuses the system.
Yes. Third, avoid keyword stuffing. Old-school optimization reads as unnatural and manipulative to a semantic model. The language must flow contextually.
So what does this all mean for you? I think the overarching takeaway here is that you have to completely reframe your relationship with PR and SEO.
Absolutely.
You can no longer view a press release as a transaction like a fee you pay for a temporary spike in traffic or a quick digital badge. It is not a cheat code.
It is a strategic mechanism for initiating consensus.
Exactly. It is a tool designed to spark multi-source validation, to generate independent red string for the AI's detective board, and to solidify your entity's position in the knowledge graph. It is about actively engineering a web of trust.
That is the fundamental philosophy we need to extract from this blueprint today. In an AI-driven search ecosystem, trust cannot be bought, and it cannot be self-proclaimed. It must be mathematically proven through consistency and verified by independent nodes across the web. The era of simply declaring your own authority is over.
You have to pass the background check, and you have to pass it consistently.
But this raises an important question, a lingering thought that we should all be considering as these systems become more deeply embedded in our lives.
Okay, what is it?
Well, we have spent this time establishing that AI engines rely on multi-source validation, that they trust what the internet consistently says over what a single primary source claims.
Right.
But what happens when the internet is collectively wrong?
Oh.
If a piece of flawed data or a fundamental misunderstanding goes viral and hundreds of high-authority domains begin repeating the exact same error, how does an AI engine, which relies on consensus as a proxy for truth, how does it separate genuine independent validation from a massive, widely repeated echo chamber?
Wow. That is the ultimate vulnerability of the background check. What happens if all the references are unknowingly repeating the same lie? As the line between primary research and AI-generated summaries continues to blur, the risk of a closed-loop echo chamber is something every brand and every consumer needs to be fiercely aware of.
Absolutely.
But until the algorithms evolve to solve that, the rules of the current game are crystal clear. Prioritize original data, build a deep content ecosystem, and give the internet something genuinely valuable to verify. Keep questioning the systems that curate your reality and keep pushing for genuine authority in your own work. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.